Okay, recap for the 18th of February 2026. Okay, I'm getting way too good at this. Even though I lost today, I still said what I was gonna do in yesterday's video, right? And the only reason that I lost is because there was two scenarios that I kind of outlined, and I kind of went with one of them, which was kind of the least probable one, but it did not matter, right? It's one of them days that I don't have data on, so now I know, right? So that's how I keep getting better. I just take the risk. I accepted the risk that, hey, if this happens, then this happens. And let me explain why, right? So, in yesterday's video, I said this is where I believe the weekly objective is to the lows, right? And right now it's shaky. But then I said the side objective for the week is visiting this daily fair value gap. So, now we have them two scenarios, right? If we're going to visit the daily fair value gap, that could be the weekly objective, right? Because we already took previous weekly low, right? Or we could stay open, right? And have something like ES visit it, keep the one on NQ open, right? And then start expanding lower, okay? So, and by just taking this high, right? But not actually taking the low yet and allowing Thursday to come and take it, okay? So, that's exactly what happened. Market open. Right there is NQ making these relative equal highs. And on ES, we're already taking the highs and we've visited the daily gap right there. It's a shallow run and I should have known better. But hey, I've never experienced this before, you know what I'm saying? So I'm adding it to the data. Right? But I did expect something like this. So it does the run, and then from there, I'm thinking we're gonna open bearish. Why? Because we have on this day, I have a certain model on the way that how overnight sets up, and this overnight set up for a low resistance liquidity run on sell side liquidity. So that added to my bearish bias, right? So, but at the same time, I'm accepting the fact that hey, we genuinely changed the market structure yesterday, right? We're gonna go lower. We should have went lower, but it doesn't make sense for us to change the market structure and not actually visit the internal, right? Internal liquidity, which is that daily fair value gap. So I can make an argument for both sides, and it genuinely does not matter because if I take the short, boom, cool, that could work. If I take the long, cool, that could work. What I should have done is probably wait more until one side is clear, right? I think that's the only wrong thing here that I haven't waited for one side to be clear, right? But I could have skewed the risk if I waited too much, you know what I'm saying? So regardless, I'm not mad about it. Mad about it. It's probably my first loss in like I don't know 10 trades or something like that. So I don't care, right? I just knew the possibility of losing today is very high, and I still took it, and I don't care because I'm up, right? So it doesn't matter. So now we know the scenarios, right? Let's explain how today played out and how it came into the market, right? I already explained that we could go up to the daily gap, and actually on top of that, let me explain the whole what I said yesterday, right? I want us, this is exactly what I said. I want us to visit to this gap. And if we're gonna do, and this could be the manipulation, right? For us to distribute lower, I would expect us to come to hit this volume imbalance on a wick basis and close inside or just below this fair value gap. That's exactly what I said. And what you can see, the market is gonna close in 2 minutes. And guess what? I'm exactly right. So I had this drawn out yesterday. And I was like, my last line, like if Mark is gonna go, is the midpoint of that week. Otherwise, then I'm starting looking at the highs, right? So I'm bearish until proven wrong, basically. And this to me seems like a manipulation, doesn't it? We wick into it, we close outside it. That's bearish, okay? And I know a lot of people would switch bullish, but I'm not switching bullish just yet, right? Because it depends how tomorrow sets out, how it starts, blah blah blah. But we could have this as a distribution day tomorrow, right? Think about it. This is how I'm looking at it. I'm looking at Monday right there, Mondays and Tuesdays price action because it was bank holiday. I'm looking at kind of like a 1 day, right? So think of like Monday to, I don't know, where did Tuesday close? Right. So there. Think of this whole area. That's how I'm seeing it. I'm seeing that Monday, Tuesday's price action is pure accumulation, right? And then this Wednesday is gonna be manipulation here for us on Thursday to distribute against all this low resistance liquidity run. You don't have to take this low, but we could distribute all the way to down here, right? And then retrace and then maybe continue on Friday, or I don't know, we could just one shot dump it or whatever. Till now, right? I'm bearish. However, on the current like mini time frame, I'm bullish, right? So we need to break one side, right? The market need to like either we need to shift the market structure back to bearish, and then I'm still with the idea of us targeting this low, right? We don't have to get it this week, but like head into that direction, right? Keeping this high intact or SMT in it, right? One of them, and it will all like right now. That's the problem. Like this is probably the trickiest day to like kind of predict, right? Because if this structure still switches to bullish and then we get over here, like I said, this is the last line, then of course we're gonna look at the highs. It's like no brainer. But currently, because none of the bullish or the bearish is confirmed, right? The bearish is definitely confirmed on the high time frame, but on the low time frame, it's not confirmed. I need both of them to align, right? I need it to be bearish on the high time frame. I need it to be bearish on the low time frame. And of course, I can't tell you right now because the market just closed. So I'm making these, I guess, pre-market. Then, yeah, I'll tell you exactly what should happen based on probabilities. Anyway, so we predicted that price is gonna go fill this gap. It's gonna go to the volume imbalance, and as you can see, price is below the midpoint. And on top of that, we wick only. Nobody's out in there. These are indications that it's bearish, right? Regardless of what it's doing, it's bearish. On top of that, we close the daily outside the fair value gap. These are all indications that it's still bearish, right? Even though the market structure is bullish. So, what do I expect? Generally, I expect this whole thing to just do a mirror, right? And flip down. That's what I'm expecting. It doesn't have to be this week or whatever, but I'm expecting Thursday tomorrow to be bearish, right? Until I'm proven wrong, right? And that doesn't mean I have to take a trade. Like I could be so confident on bearish, right? And then if the market structure changes or anything that I said gets disproved, then I'm looking at the highs, right? And I'm looking at the highs again. It's not one all be all type of looking at the market. If it does this, then that, it's just if statements at the point. But at least you have kind of like conditions set out where if this happens, then I know that I'm gonna do this. If this happens, then I know I'm gonna do this. And the only problem that I can't give you like yesterday two definitive answer is because there's so much that could happen just based on how today closed. But gun to my head, I'm bearish. That's all I could give you. Okay. So let's hop into what happened today, right? And why was I I'm not gonna explain why I was bearish, right? I'm gonna explain how you would see it if you were bullish. Okay. So or bearish, regardless, right? Like how you would trade today and what you target and what you need to target. Knowing that we have an internal liquidity, right, up top. Right now, going to this low, and as you can see, we have if we pull regular trading hours, right? And let's just get rid of this. Once we're opened, we yes we go down to discount, but we haven't really, right, especially like if we're looking at lows like this, I haven't really done any damage, right, which makes me believe this is just manipulation, right? As an addition, I wanted us to go lower, right, first, regardless if we're gonna go higher. I want us to go lower even if we're gonna go higher, right? So the way that overnight set, it said like that we're gonna dump on 9:30, right? Because we don't have news today. Well, we do have news, and I'm guessing that's why the PM dumped us early, which is that fake FOMC, not the real proper FOMC, but like the FOMC at like 2, FOMC minutes or something like that. Anyway, that's why we had this. Otherwise, we were gonna stay consolidating the whole day up top and then just close inside the gap. That's what we're gonna do if we didn't have this, I'm guessing. So looking at this, right, and let's just get what are the boxes are. So we explained this is the daily, this is a volume imbalance on the daily as well. These are probably just 15-minute either side, right? Because I was looking at either side. So this I would expect to hold price because it's kind of like a balanced price range. I'm not looking at it as a balanced price range, but I'm just looking at, okay, if we're gonna go lower, if we're gonna wick higher, where could we wick to and then start dumping? And if we're gonna go lower, where do we need to go below? And these are 215 minutes. The value gaps are kind of just sum them up together, put like something like a 30-minute gap, whatever, right? We need to close below this to confirm that we're dumping, and we need to like respect this area to confirm that we're not gonna pump. Right? This is just in my head, right? So if we hop into the 1 minute, we can see that market opened and aggressively shot through both liquidity, the initial liquidity and London liquidity, right? Boom, Judah. And then it struggled, right? Especially the midpoint, it struggled to go and close below and outside this. And this is one of my slight mistakes here, right? One of an entry for this model is not a CISD, and I entered on a CISD here, and I got cooked by it's just a small loss, right? I guess half of the positions I'm allowed for today is a loss, right? So I guess that's the only mistake for me for today, taking unnecessary loss because of trying to catch it early, even though there was not full confirmations done. However, at the time looking at this was genuine going to be a whole big gap and everything, right? But then in the last seconds it closed. Anyway, doesn't matter what happens here. The problem is when we wake up to, I said that should hold price. I don't mind all of this because we're filling all these gaps coming down. See this right there when we have our first presented fair value gap, which we had it very late at 9:48. This was understandable to be a loss, right? This is what I took. I took this short, right? And I had an inkling that it's not gonna work, right? And I'm gonna add the reasons to my model why this one didn't work, right? So I'm taking it and I'm like, okay, this is such a 50-50 right now. We could dump or we could go high. Like while I'm taking this. And only because I took this loss, it was the last trade for me. So if I took this loss, I would genuinely just instantly reverse and go along because we genuinely at that point at the 50-50. But what was pushing me more to be bullish, right, in my head, but I wasn't in it, is the way that we were closing here. Technically, we don't need to or even need to visit all of this. We should be bearish. We should use that strength to go down. The way that we're closing, and what confirmed it the most was the way we go to our new daily opening gap right here to the tick and then zoom up. That is one of them signs, right? Is one of them things that when you see, right, like especially this candle was just breaking every structure, but then nope, it stops right here, and then in the 15-second, it closes within its 15, I guess, first presented gap or whatever, right? And when we kind of technically broke the structure right here. And all this when you can see in the 15-second. So that to me already like just killed a lot of the bearish probabilities, but I still went for it, saying that it's my model. Technically, it really ain't after all of this, right? And now I have a clear way to identify if it's gonna be my model or not, or I should be waiting. Because if I wait, I'm gonna take this long any day of the week, right? I know my draw on liquidity up there, and that this was a Judah, but it wasn't the perfectly nicest setup for going long. I don't like how we just stopped here barely on the 4 hour, right? It is too deep, right? Like into this gap. So like for example, this gap in itself is too deep into it. There's too much that was iffy about the long itself earlier, right? So if we maybe stopped earlier here rather than wicking all the way to here, right? Stopped at the new daily opening gap initially, and whatever, doesn't matter. So that's the long. We don't need this now. We don't need this now. And we know that we went to the liquidity, so let's just clean things up, right? And clean this up. Boom, to the first presented. So at this point, it was like boom to the first presented, go down here, or boom to the first presented, go up here. That was going to be the trade. Either way, it's probably like the same amount of points. Midpoint, 200 handles, 200 handles. 20. It was genuinely the most 50-50 kind of trade I basically took. And looking back at it, now I'm talking in the minute, it looked like a 50, but looking back at it, you can see it was more bullish than bearish. Plus what I said yesterday for the manipulation. However, next time, and for me, that's what I'm noticing, allow NASDAQ to be the one that's controlling where it should go. Like, for example, if NASDAQ went to this and ES didn't, right? ES had the lower high, then yes, that will be valid and I'll take this short. But next time that ES, for example, doesn't go into this, or like ES goes into this fair value gap on the daily, but NASDAQ doesn't, I'm not gonna care. I'm still gonna demand that NASDAQ does it. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna use NASDAQ as like just the one that is freely or allowed to move, right? Especially that ES is an absolute mess right now. I'm not gonna lie, ES is genuinely a joke. It's just look at it. It's garbage. So I'm just gonna use NASDAQ, even though it's kind of garbage as well, but doesn't mean. Alright, I think this is getting a bit too long now. Let's just see what we expect for tomorrow, or what's the. It's genuinely the same thing, right? So let's get rid of this. We're gonna extend the liquidity because if we're gonna dump, we're gonna dump harder, like much faster, more aggressive. Alright, so let's get rid of the biceps that we said in yesterday's video. And what we're looking at, and especially if we have a market structure shift here, this sell side is important, right? Because that will be a market structure shift. And then eventually, if we can do that, right? Don't need to take all of this. We're gonna create our own liquidity spot tomorrow. We can have this market structure shift, and if I'm looking at something like the 15-minute, this could look something like a 2022 model, right? If we go all the way down, then we could come back to the same gap, or just go up slightly higher or something. I'm not gonna try to out predict everything for tomorrow. It's just too much. But a lot could happen. All I'm saying is, once we get below 1, it's gonna start accelerating, right? Till this point, right? I'm not looking at this low. If tomorrow's gonna dump, I'm looking at this for 15-minute fair value. I'm looking at this internal as take profit, right? So let's say I can get my entry somewhere here, right? If we can get the entry somewhere here, all I'm looking is somewhere there, and that's fine. Stop loss would probably be somewhere. That's what I'm, trying to get, and we'll see for tomorrow. If okay, and then again, if we get above this high, and especially above this midpoint of the daily wick that I outlined in yesterday's video, then I'm looking at us, regardless if we come back to this daily fair value, then I'm bullish. I'm looking at these highs, right? If we get above this, why? Because then we have filled this, technically have filled every imbalance basically right there. It's a shallow one, but we could have a slightly wick higher, but that would reduce the probabilities. And definitely, if we have a wick higher above this high, we're not gonna go to this low for this week. Anyway, it's getting too long. That's the market recap. Peace out.